Chat as you come in. What's up? What's up, everybody? It is Thursday, y'all. It's Thursday. And listen, Thursday, we are alive. We are healthy. At least I hope y'all are. We are rested, right? We are grounded. We are sound enough to take in what we are about to digest. At least I hope that's the case for many of you. If you are not mentally prepared to participate today, please do not. Because news can be triggering. How many of y'all know from a mental health standpoint that news can be triggering? I think that's why over the last decade, a lot of people have given up on the news, actually. And well, for me, most of my life, I didn't realize it was triggering me, but that's pretty much why I stopped watching it. So hopefully y'all are rested. Y'all having a good week so far. I wanted to jump on a little bit early, right? Because I'm always like rushing from work after a project or rushing from a chore the wife asked me to do, which I gladly do. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just hop on there right now. It'll come in slowly. So what's up, everybody? It is March 20th, 2025 on a Thursday. I like Thursdays. Thursdays are actually my favorite day of the week. It's kind of an odd day of the week, I know. I think that's why I like it. But I like Thursdays. I hope y'all are having a good Thursday. I hope y'all are well rested. I am pretty rested. After this, I'm gonna chill a little bit. Thinking about playing my hunting game. I'm determined to shoot a bear. I'm just gonna share this with you guys. I'm gonna be transparent because my wife has been harassing me about this. She literally made me tell my mentor at work about it. So I'm just gonna spill the beans. In my hunting game, I think it's called Hunter Call of the Wild or Hunting Call of the Wild, but some of you might be familiar with this game. So obviously the title tells on it. I run around pretty much in different reservoirs, parks, um, well-known national parks, and well, not in parks, but you guys get what I'm saying. Like in areas where you can hunt at. Well-known areas where you can hunt at, like we have in real life and not game in the United States. I don't know if I have a place in Pennsylvania, but I know I have a place in Alaska in the game. Anyway, I run around and I hunt animals all day, right? That's what you do. And then sometimes you like go to your cabin and you can go to sleep. And as you hunt, you can have the trophy head and put it in your cabin. So nonetheless, I've been hunting I started the game fairly recently. So it was maybe like 2 weeks ago, and I don't play every day, so it takes some time. Hunting Call of the Wild, that's the name of the game, right? So I run around and I hunt, shoot animals, right? So you gotta level your player up. My player's only on level 4 right now because I recently started playing. So, as you kill, you level up, your sights get better, he gets faster. In rainy weather, he gets quieter. Sometimes when I go through bushes, he's kind of loud. So as you level up, your player gets quieter. I think eventually he gets night vision because right now I don't have any night vision. So it's a pretty cool game, So far I've killed like a jackrabbit, a mallard, like 3 white-tailed deer, and I think that's it. So far. So I probably got like 5 or 6 kills under my belt. Again, I don't play every day. So this is why I'm taking a while to get to it, because the game, I love it and it's traumatized me at the same time, and it pissed me off. And the reason why it pissed me off was because I died. And I know, like, some of you are probably thinking, well, it's a hunting game. It's easy for you to die. But in this game, it's actually not easy for you to die, because as long as you stay out of sight, things are not really attacking you and you're fairly quiet. But nonetheless, I died. And do you want to know how I died? I died in a way where I don't want to talk about it. My wife has harassed me. She told me to tell my mentor at work. He laughed at me. And I'm on a vigorous hunt to kill a bear. But you have to level your rifle up to a certain ammo to kill a bear, right? So the highest ammo I have right now, I'm at like a 6. You need an 8 to kill a bear and a male moose, right? So I get pissed off because I haven't killed what I want to kill, which is a bear. So I'm like, whatever, I'm going to just go after a moose because I'm mad about it. So, I go ahead and I'm chasing after the moose, and, you know, he shows all of the signs of a moose that's about to attack. And I'm like, man, this guy, man, I'm going to make sure I just drop down to the prone position so he doesn't see me. So that's what I do. First, I hide behind a tree and I kneel down. And then, like, you can see him, like, walking, but he's kind of, like, looking, but he doesn't see me. And then I, like, drop down to the prone position. And I think my character just made too much noise. And I literally tried to, like, shoot him. And I got off, like, one shot in the prone position. And that's it. He trampled me. He killed me. So, a moose killed me. And I'm mad about it. So I know that was random. Like, it was random because on this channel we don't talk about video games at all. But because I've been looking at so much random hunting stuff today, it just came to my mind to talk about it because I'm probably gonna play the game for like an hour today, and you have your frustrations with the games you love. You love them and it frustrates you at the same time. So you guys just wish me some luck, and I hope that a moose or a bear doesn't kill me. And I level my player up so I can actually kill a male moose or a bear. With that being said, as random as that was, I appreciate you guys stopping by and being on recording with me today. Happy Thursday, everybody. Again, March 20th, 2025 on a Thursday. Let's see what's on the menu, guys. So first up, we got Elon Musk stunned senator with new Doge update, full supercut. So this is pretty cool. We got Elon Musk sitting with Ted Cruz, and I forgot who else he's with. I think, Matt Pokius. He's with. If I said your name, I'm sorry. If I said your name wrong, I'm sorry. But I think it's Pokius or Pokius. But he's on there with Ted Cruz and Matt, and they are talking to Elon. And Elon's being very transparent about some of his findings with the government. So, Ted is asking him some questions like, hey, what was the worst you had to deal with? Was it Twitter or was it the federal government? And, Elon's transparent. So he's like, you can't really top the federal government. But he says that there's so much room for improvement in the federal government because it's so bad. And I was like, ugh, that's kind of ugly, but Elon, he's as honest as he can be. Next up, CTV News. Trump says he would rather deal with a liberal than a conservative when it comes to Canada's prime minister. Bro, I got questions. Like, this had me bewildered yesterday. I was looking at this headline and I thought to myself, what is... it only took a second. It didn't take very long because if you're following Donald Trump, or if you at least like him a little bit, or you're at least trying to pay attention to, your politics, you'll pay attention to what you need to understand things. So for a second, I'm like, what is Donald Trump up to? Like, what is he? And it was interesting because one of the candidates who's running for prime minister in Canada, Pierre Poilievre, he actually got on his channel and he went as far as to say President Trump wanted to endorse Mark Carney because President Trump wants Canada to be weak because he's trying to build America into an empire. So as long as Canada has a weak leader, then America can just, keep succeeding, and, eventually be an empire to the world. Which I was like, okay, that's one way of looking at it. And then we see President Trump, and he says, I'd rather deal with a liberal than a conservative. I guess we're going to see him go a little bit more into depth about this. I didn't watch this whole entire thing, so some of it is going to be just as shocking to me as it is to you guys, but we're going to take a look at it. Then we're going to jump over to Jesse Waters Primetime. He is talking about Chuck Schumer and how the Democrats are all voting against him, all very upset with him, and now Congress is even leaking. So he's not saying that this is a fact, but Congress is even leaking that Chuck Schumer should either step down or retire early. So we'll take a look at that. And then as a treat, I don't know if you guys are familiar with DJ Vlad. He's a pretty big YouTuber, 6.09 million subscribers. And this is a quick 5-minute treat, 5 minutes, 39 seconds. Ex-Army Ranger Nicholas Irving on why China would crush the U.S. in a war. So I jumped over to part 2 because I like this little 5-minute clip here. But I think what I'm going to do is we're going to react to this clip at the kind of towards the end of the live, and after that, tomorrow, I think I'm going to bring back some more of it, like in a kind of like more of a full scale instead of just a little snippet, so we can kind of look at it, because the guy he gives some pretty good insight, and I think we're gonna enjoy what he has to say. So you guys give me 1 second. Let me take a look at. Let me pull up. And then we will have our final clip of the live, which is always a Christian clip. Most of the time I use Cliff. Which one was I going to use today? I had it. Let me see. Put it right here. Yeah, so we're going to react to that one today. All right, guys. So with that being said, welcome to Cozy Corner TV, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Kieran Smith, call me Q, and we are on the corner. We're on the corner, guys. So let's go ahead and jump into this live stream. And let's take a look at what Elon Musk, Ted Cruz, and Matt Pokius had to talk about regarding some of Elon Musk's finding since he's been a part of Doge. Again, Matt, his channel is Matt Focus on Tesla stock and money. So we're just gonna call him Matt P for now, because I hate butchering names. I think it's so rude and disrespectful, and I think you should at least try. So we're gonna see Elon Musk, Ted Cruz, Matt P. Let's jump in.
Yes, wow. Which was worse, the mess you found at Twitter or the mess you found in the federal government?
Well, it's hard to compete with federal government. It is worse than I expected, but on the plus side, that means there's more opportunity for improvement. So if you look at the bright side, there's actually a lot of opportunity for improvement in federal government expenditures because it's so bad. If it was a well-run ship, it would be very difficult to improve. So now it's like, if people say, well, how do you figure out how to save money in the federal government? Well, it's like being in a room where the walls, the roof, and the floor are all targets. So any direction, you can miss.
Multifaceted, hello from the Bronx, New York. Yo, multifaceted, what's good? I'm from the Bronx. I gotta shout out the BX. Anybody that stops by from the BX in my chat, you gotta shout yourself out. I'm from the BX. I'm from New York City. I love New York City. Thank you for saying what's up in the chat. You guys in the chat, go ahead and hit that like button for me, please. It takes 1 second. Appreciate that. W chat, man. Jack Jock, what's up? Matthew Suarez, what's up? How you doing? Hori Manafretti Tattoo, what's up? I appreciate all you guys stopping by. All right, let's get it.
The roof and the floor are all targets. So any direction, you can miss. Wow. Yeah, I'm sure you would agree.
We're only like not even a minute in, guys, so I'm gonna run that back.
Holy crap.
Yes, wow.
Which was worse, the mess you found at Twitter or the mess you found in the federal government?
Well, it's hard to compete with federal government. It is worse than I expected, but on the plus side, that means there's more opportunity for improvement. So if you look at the bright side, there's actually a lot of opportunity for improvement in federal government expenditures because it's so bad. If it was a well-run ship, it would be very difficult to improve. So now it's like, if people say, well, how do you figure out how to save money in the federal government? Well, it's like being in a room where the walls, the roof, and the floor are all targets. So any direction, you can miss. Wow. Yeah, I'm sure you would agree.
So a lot of folks have talked about like you can break.
Yeah, just go in any direction.
Things like $2 million for sex change surgeries in Guatemala.
And essential.
Tell us about computer licenses in government agencies.
Yeah. So most of what Doge is finding, you don't need to show groups. Okay, it's very obvious, basic stuff. Every government department, I say every because we've not yet found a single exception. There are far too many software licenses and media subscriptions, meaning many more software licenses and media subscriptions than there are humans in the department. We found entire situations of software licenses or media subscriptions where there were 0 logins. So it had that,
and yet we were paying for it.
Yes, so the government was paying for thousands of licenses of software or media subscriptions, and no one had ever logged in even once. We found that there are twice as many credit cards as there are humans. And I still don't have a good explanation for why this is the case. And these are $10,000 limit cards. So it's a lot of money. Look, I think it's mostly, if you say, look, what's the waste to,
He said they found out that there are more credit cards than humans, and these are credit cards that have $10,000 limits. So he's saying these are not cheap credit cards. That's wild.
the fraud ratio?
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's like 80% waste, 20% fraud. But you do have these sort of gray areas.
Yeah.
So,
Example.
example would be, we saw a lot of payments going out of Treasury that had no payment code and no explanation for the payment. And then we're trying to figure out what that payment is, and we'd see that, okay, that contract was supposed to be shut off, but someone forgot to shut off that contract, and so the company kept getting money.
Wow.
Now, is that waste or fraud? You're not supposed to get it, but the government sent it to you, and nobody from the government asked for it back. So say, for example, the $1.9 billion given to Stacey Abrams, a fake NGO.
Utter insanity.
Allegedly, it was for environmentally friendly appliances
Yeah.
or something. And they've given out like 100 appliances so far for $2 billion. It's very expensive toaster. This is obviously one of the biggest scam fraud holes we've uncovered, which is really crazy. Is that the government can give money to a so-called nonprofit with very few controls, and then there's no auditing subsequently of that nonprofit. So there's no. So this is where with the 1.9 billion Stacey Abrams, they then give themselves extremely lavish, like insane salaries, expense everything to the nonprofit. Buying jets and homes and all sorts of things. And this is happening at scale. It's not just one or two. We're seeing this everywhere. You may think that that the government computers all talk to each other. They synchronize. They add up what funds are going somewhere, and it's it's coherent. There's and that the numbers, for example, that you're presented as a senator, are actually the real numbers. One would think they're not.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they're not totally wrong, but they're probably off by 5% or 10% in some cases. I call a magic money computer a computer which can just make money out of thin air. That's magic money. It just issues payments. They're mostly Treasury. Some are, but there's some at HHS. Some there's one or two at state. There's some at DoD. I think we found now 14 magic money computers.
14, okay.
They just send money out of nothing. Well, the government is run by computers. So you've got essentially several hundred computers that effectively run the government. So when somebody, when the president issues an executive order, that's going to go through a whole bunch of people that will ultimately is implemented at a computer somewhere. And if you want to know what the situation is with the accounting and you're trying to reconcile accounting and get rid of waste and fraud, you must be able to analyze the computer databases. Otherwise, you can't figure it out. Because all you're doing is asking a human, who will then ask another human, and finally usually ask some contractor, who will ask another contractor to do a query on the computer.
Wow.
That's how it actually works. So it's many layers deep. So the only way to reconcile the databases and get rid of waste and fraud is to actually look at the computers and see what's going on.
So
That's what I call that's what I sort of cryptically refer to reprogramming the matrix. You have to understand what's going on with the computers. You have to reconcile the computer databases in order to identify the waste and fraud. I mean, in order for money to go to a bank account, it's not like we're sending truckloads of cash all over the place. We're wiring money.
Right.
We're sending money through the ACH system or through the SWIFT system. So in order for money to flow, it's going to flow electronically. So that's what you need to look at. You need to look at the actual electronic money flows. And if it was a public company, it would be delisted immediately. It would fail its audit, and the officers of the company would be imprisoned. So that's the level of, it's 80% incompetence and 20% malice. Reasonably confident that we'll be able to get $1 trillion of waste and fraud out, and that meaning that it will have. We'll have a net savings in FY26, which starts in October, obviously, of $1 trillion.
Wow.
Provided we're allowed to continue and our progress is not impeded. And we're very public about what we do. How we can be more transparent. Literally every action we do, small or large, we put on the Doge.gov website, and we post on the X handle. And when people complain about it, and they say, "Oh, you're doing something unconstitutional," I'm like, "Well, which of these cost
You do it in the
savings?"
daylight. Everyone knows exactly what you're doing.
Extreme transparency.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything's been this transparent ever. Good.
Yeah, for those of you guys who haven't visited the Doge site, you should go do that. I recommend that because he's pretty transparent about what he's saying. You know, you have so many people, especially on the left, while they're being divisive, saying like, "Oh, Elon's stealing money." You know, Trump has Elon running the country and he's stealing money. And I mean, if you look on the Doge website, he's pretty transparent about it, line for line, about what's going on. So I encourage you guys to check that out if you haven't already.
Go to a party in Hollywood and not get dirty looks.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah.
And
You might not get invited.
I think
Still get invited, but I don't know if I should go.
why do they hate you so much?
Well, because we're clearly over the target. If Doge was ineffective, if we were not actually getting rid of a bunch of waste and fraud, and a bunch of that fraud, the fraud we're seeing is overwhelmingly on the left.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not zero on the right, but these NGOs are almost all left-wing NGOs that are being funded, for example.
Yep.
So they hate me because Doge is being effective, and Doge is getting rid of a lot of waste and fraud that people on the left were taking advantage of. That's what it comes down to. And the single biggest thing that they're worried about is that Doge is going to turn off fraudulent payments of entitlements. Everything from Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, disability, small business administration loans, turn them off to illegals. This is the crux of the matter.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the thing that why they really hit my guts and want me to die. Across the country, it's well north of 100 billion, maybe 200 billion. So. By using entitlements fraud, the Democrats have been able to attract and retain vast numbers of illegal immigrants and buy voters, exactly. And basically bring in, 10, 20 million people who are beholden to the Democrats for government handouts and will vote overwhelmingly Democrat, as has been demonstrated in California. And it doesn't take much to turn the swing states blue.
Has been demonstrated in California. You guys hear that, right? Okay. Right.
Often a swing state might be won by 10, 20,000 votes.
Sure.
So if the Dems can bring in 200,000 illegals and over time get them legalized, not counting any cheating that takes place, because there is some cheating.
Yep.
But even without cheating, if you bring in illegals that are 10x the voter differential in a swing state, it will no longer be a swing state.
Right.
And the Dems will win all the swing states, just a matter of time, and America will be permanent, deep blue socialist state. With the House, the Senate,
Yep.
The presidency, and the Supreme Court will all go hardcore Dem. They will then further cement that by bringing in even more aliens, so you can't vote your way out of it.
Their objective is to make it
one party
That's kinda
socialist
crazy
state.
the way
And it'll be much worse in California, because at least California is mitigated by the fact that someone can leave
Right,
California.
you can go to Texas.
Yeah, exactly. The COVID actions almost killed Tesla. Because every other auto plant in the country was allowed to open, but ours, which was in California, was not allowed to open.
Wow.
So they almost killed Tesla. How many great movies have come out in the last,
I thought that was a great example of the way Elon broke it down. You know, he says it doesn't take much to turn the swing state blue. He says you can win a state or swing a state by 10 to 20,000 votes. He's like, so if they bring in 200,000 people into one state and they get them all legalized over time, he's like doing it the right way to where they can actually vote. He's like, they can literally swing the entire state blue. And it's crazy because when we think about how many immigrants we've seen or how many, illegal aliens we've seen come in, because those who have came in and become legal, we can't really say anything to that. But when we see the way that he just broke it down, it's like, yeah, it's true, because who would they be indebted to? They would be indebted to the person or the party that allowed them to come to America and be able to actually, become a legal citizen. So, when he breaks it down like that, he makes a great point.
over years? The last Oscars came and went, I didn't watch it, there's nothing to see. It's not in my imagination. You can just look on social media.
Yeah.
And they've got signs. There are people with signs and demonstrations saying that I need to die. At least some of it is organized and paid for, I think, by domestic, you know, basically left-wing organizations in America, funded by left-wing billionaires, essentially. Arabella, you know, the classic. It's funded by the, you know, the blue, basically the left-wing NGO cabal. Well, I do have this theory that the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. So, yeah, it seems often to be true. You see, like, what twist or turn of fate
Well, I will
would generate the
say,
highest ratings? If we were a TV show, what twist or turn of fate would generate the highest ratings? There's a good chance that happens. It's not coming from a whole bunch of from a groundswell of public support, because when individual donors looked at and act blue, they eventually turn out to be like diehard Republicans,
right.
people that have never given money in their life. So you're going to track down a bunch of these people where it says, "Oh, I gave $16,000," and they're like, "I didn't give $16,000. What are you talking about?" So
Well, if those
Republican friends of mine found themselves on the act blue list, they're like,
Wow.
10 years is a long time. In 10 years, probably AI could do anything better than a human can, cognitively. Probably almost, I think in 10 years, based on the current rate of improvement, AI will be smarter than the smartest human. Yeah. There will also be a massive number of robots. So humanoid robots. It's not meant to look like a prior robot. And we'll iterate the design. You'll be able to have, a lot of the robot parts are cosmetic. You'll be able to switch out the kind of snap-on cosmetic parts of the robot, make it look like something else if you'd like. So there'll be ultimately billions of humanoid robots. All cars will be self-driving. In 10 years, probably.
Do you guys hear what he's saying right now? Yo, this is wild. But it's Elon, right? So we're not shocked. Billions of humanoid robots, or millions, all self-driving cars. And he said, in 10 years, AI will be smarter than the smartest human. And I'm like, wow, okay, Elon. I mean, it's not going to be able to love. It might be able to understand the concept of it, but it's not going to be able to actually do it. So this is interesting that this is what he says about AI.
90% of miles driven will be autonomous. In 5 years, probably 50% of all miles driven will be autonomous. Goods and services will become as close to free. So it's not as though people will be wanting in terms of goods and services. Well, you'll have, I don't know, call it tens of billions of robots that they will make you anything or provide any service you want for basically next to nothing. It's not that people will have a lower standard of living; they'll have actually a much higher standard of living. The challenge will be fulfillment. How do you derive fulfillment and meaning in life?
is Skynet real?
20% likely, maybe
Wow.
10%.
On what time frame?
Hey guys,
That's
you know
crazy.
some
He
drivers
said-
are ditching their
Yo, Elon is, you gotta love this guy's honesty though. Can't get mad at him.
Actually, 10 years. But I mean, you can look at it like the glass is 80, 90% full.
Yep.
Meaning like 80% likely will have extreme prosperity for all. For the next few years, I think America is likely to win. Then it will be a function of who controls the AI chip fabrication. The factories that make the AI chips, who controls them? If they are controlled, if more of them are controlled by China, then China will win. Well, right now, almost all the advanced AI chip factories, they call them fabs, are in Taiwan.
And what if China invades Taiwan?
69 miles away from. Well, if they were to invade in the near term, the world would be cut off from advanced AI chips.
Oh boy.
And
Currently, 100% of advanced AI chips are made in Taiwan. It's essential for national security, and we're not doing enough. In the in the distant future, 100 or 1,000 years ago, if SpaceX got humans to Mars, that's what they would remember me for. Larry Ellison's very smart. So I'd say Larry Ellison's one of the smartest people. Larry Page. I mean, there are a lot of people that are very smart. It's hard to say, like, I think to some degree smart is as smart does. So, what have they done that is difficult and significant? Jeff Bezos has done a lot of difficult and significant things. There are a lot of smart humans. I call them smart for a human. A lot of people who are in the smart for a human category. The first movie I saw in the theater was Star Wars, so I think it had a profound effect on me. I was 6 years old, I think. Imagine if the first movie you ever see in a theater is Star Wars, it's going to blow your mind.
Best Star Wars movie?
Yeah,
Empire
yeah,
Strikes
that's
Back.
crazy.
Kirk or Picard?
I like them both concur. I mean, the original, the first Star Trek movie, Wrath of Khan. Actually, both Wrath of Khans were pretty good. But yeah, the original Wrath of Khan, it seemed like he shot second. He missed the alien missed his blaster shot. So why did he miss his blaster shot? It must have been because he got shot first. And nobody's missing a point blank blaster shot unless they got knocked off kill. He would have had to shot first because otherwise, why would the alien miss a point blank range? Yeah, I'd like to go to Mars at some point. And people said, do I want to die on Mars? And I say, yes, just not on impact. And some of them are. Yeah, I mean, there's been some debate about this online, but the thing is that it was a very high level decision. So
they're asking now, are the astronauts on the space station political prisoners?
It wasn't really even a NASA decision.
Yeah.
It was just that the Biden White House did not want to have someone who was pro-Trump rescuing astronauts right before the election.
So it was political. The Biden administration just didn't want to have someone who was pro-Trump rescuing astronauts. That's ridiculous. So instead of their trip being 8 days, it turned out to be 286 days for that reason. Great. Thank you, President Biden.
If they're a Democrat, yes. If it's a Republican, yes. But if a Democrat, like, everything's fine.
Fair enough.
So I think one of them is a Republican, one is a Democrat. So it depends on which one you ask. It's essential for the future of civilization, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it.
Yes.
It's not like I want to get death threats, you know?
If you appreciated this video, make sure to like and subscribe.
Yeah. And shout out to him. This is, oh yeah, I told you guys Matt pokes this channel. So, I can appreciate Elon's honesty. And President Trump has even gone out to say the same exact thing. He said, Elon didn't need this. Like, he's been honest about that. He's like, he did not need this. The guy has a lot of money. President Trump is like, he's got a lot of money. And he didn't need it. A lot of the things he's getting right now, yeah, to some extent, I do feel bad for him to take on a job where you're actually trying to help people, but because of such a huge lack of understanding and deception, it's hard for them to see, that you're not stealing their money, or, you really are trying to get everyone, straightened out. Because Elon said this himself yesterday on a live that we covered, where he said, I just want people to know that, we're all in the boat of America. So if the ship sinks, if the boat sinks, we all sink. Like, he didn't say, the working class and like all the poor people, you guys are gonna sink, but the rich people, we're just gonna all go to like Greece or something. No, he said, like, if the boat sinks, we all sink. And this is where it's like people have to really understand. Elon and President Trump have went on record so many times to say, listen, the level of debt that the United States is carrying, like, it's not sustainable, and if we don't do something about it, America will go bankrupt. So I think we just gotta pay attention to what the guy's trying to do, cut him some slack. I've said it millions of times, thousands really. If you haven't voted, for President Trump and Elon Musk, that's cool, but at this point, they're everyone's president, not the president of the conservatives. And, we don't want our president to fail, right? That's what almost my last clip, second to last clip of the live is about, an ex-Army Ranger telling us about why China is so hyped and amped to fight us and ready to fight us. And it's like, that's no surprise to me about China. Having served in the Marine Corps, there were always two countries that I was like, man, if this is ever a war, it's going to be ugly. And I always said it would be China and Russia. So, CTV News, shout out to you. Let's see what Trump is talking about. President Trump says he would rather deal with a liberal than a conservative when it comes to Canada's prime minister. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really care for this headline. I'm interested to see what this whole thing looks like. I have some take on it, and some opinion, but I'm actually not gonna get into it today. I said, you know what, I'm gonna give it, when did they grab this? It should have been yesterday, March 19th, yep, and today's the 20th. So I said I was gonna give this a day or two before I really entertain this, because I really wanna see where this is gonna go before I just jump to any conclusions. So let's take a look.
For China, closer to Canada, and that would really put us in a bind.
The conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal actually with a liberal.
It's true. I'm a strong leader. I'm a tough guy to deal with.
This is Pierre Poilievre. He is from Canada, and he is someone who is in a race to be the next prime minister. It's not set in stone. We know after Justin Trudeau left, Mark Carney was sworn in, but he is someone who's a part of the elections, and I'm looking forward to it. So I like Pierre, but he is a tough guy. He stands his ground. So let's see what we're talking about.
I'm firm in my convictions, and I'll always put Canada first.
Really? I don't know. I've seen it for 10 years. They don't look very tough to me. What we need now is seasoned, serious people at the helm of this country. And I think that's what Prime Minister Carney is bringing to that.
U.S. President Donald Trump weighing in on a likely imminent election call in this country, saying he hasn't liked past comments from conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and would rather work with a liberal. Will those comments matter here in Canada? And if so, in what way? Let's talk about that with our front bench. Sharon Carr is the former Deputy Chief of Staff to former Finance Minister Bill Morneau. She's now a partner at Sovereign Advisory. Jamie Allerton is a conservative strategist and the founder and principal of Canaptus. Former interim ADP National Director Carl Belanger is with us. He's now the president of Traction Strategies. And rounding us out this evening, Hannah Thibodeau is a former news anchor. She's now executive communications officer at Global Public Affairs. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Hi.
Hannah, I'll start with you. Does this comment, Pierre Poilievre wanted to respond to this today. You could see the Liberals were definitely downplaying it. Like, does this comment actually make a difference in addressing what appears to be, and certainly public opinion polling would underscore, a vulnerability that has emerged for Pierre Poilievre around Trump?
I think on the margins, yes, because he made a comment quickly after to ensure that he took advantage of this. And he knows he has to, because there is that vulnerability that people think the best person in the polling says that Mark Carney is likely that person. What I find weird, though, is what Donald Trump said. I'd rather deal with a liberal government. That's not what he felt before under Justin Trudeau. Maybe he didn't know he was a liberal. I'm not 100% sure, but he would.
And this is where it was sus for me, because, I'm not going to say anything about, my president. I'm not going to come on here and I'm not going to say anything. And that's not because it's like, oh, my president. It's just it's a respect thing. And, just a thing that, honestly, I picked up in the military and it stuck with me, right? That president, our president, the commander-in-chief, it just kind of stuck with me. So I'm definitely not going to do that online. But I'm not going to lie, I felt the way she felt. And I was like, this is kind of sus. Like, why would President Trump even say something like that? So let's keep watching.
Was out there trolling former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Pierre Poilievre, does see this as an opportunity, though, and he does have to get his voice out there and say that he is strong, he is tough against Donald Trump. And for those that maybe were like, moving over and thinking, I think Mr. Carney's the best person, not Pierre Poilievre, this might bring him back a little bit for those who were just in the middle. But I think a lot of people have made up their minds at this point, and we're not in the election campaign yet. But I just found it fascinating that Donald Trump would even say those things.
Yeah,
I felt like Pierre had a pretty good shot. I'm not going to lie. Before President Trump did that, I'm not going to say that he's out of the race at all. As I've said before, I think Canada's wanting some conservatism. I see that they seem to be leaning that way. I try to follow as much Canadian news as I can. That country is probably the second country that watches me the most, if not the third. So I love my Canadian friends, so I try to really keep up with their politics. And I like Pierre. I've done a couple of things on lives about him and Justin Trudeau and others. I was pretty hyped about their election, and as I was wishing them luck, a lot of people would kind of jump in, the video comments and say like, yeah, we like this guy better, or like, yeah, we're really hoping Pierre wins. So I feel like Pierre had a great shot before President Trump endorsed Carney. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't have a great shot, but I know that there's a lot of Canadians that don't hate Trump. Great amount of deal that don't care for him, especially with the whole tariff thing. But I know there's a great deal that don't hate him, and that great deal might be excited about the fact that he just endorsed Mark Carney. So I'm not too sure what it looks like now, but let's see.
I mean,
I'm not too sure what it looks like now, but let's see. Still have high hopes for Pierre though.
Sentence could apply to so much of the last 60. Jamie, what's your take on whether or not something like this makes a difference? Is it just at the margins? Is it something that needs to be said given what the public opinion polling has been like for the Conservatives over the past few weeks? Do you think it makes a difference?
I do think it makes a difference. I think it also complicates everything. I'm perhaps going to be a bit of a bad partisan tonight, but this election is so up for grabs. Canadians are like sick of the political status quo. They don't want like the rehashed political talking points. And I think when you already see Liberals have tried to push that Pierre Poilievre and Donald Trump are one and the same. And now if that clip, beyond this one-day news story, becomes something that is seen over and over again, gets ad spend put behind it, and it clearly draws the line between Canada's conservatism and the spirit of Canadian conservatives to that what you see of the excesses of the MAGA movement and Donald Trump, then I do think it absolutely helps Pierre Poilievre. I think when you look at the reality of what we're facing, though, you have Liberals that have 180'd on a lot of their own policies in recent months, and Conservatives saying, how about you take the people who've been advocating for these things and let us actually take the country to a better place? Yeah. Every day that Donald Trump is essentially throwing shade at Pierre Poilievre is the day that he gets to stand up and kind of wear the Captain Canada cape the same way Doug Ford did in his campaign, and I think helps Conservative campaign fortunes.
Yeah, and Doug Ford, this would be, I think Doug Ford is in Ontario, and he was the gentleman who, being frustrated with tariffs, said, I will cut off the energy in America with a smile on my face. So that's Dougie Ford. But I think that he's making a great point here when he says that, no, they're not showing his name, when he says that, every day that Trump kind of throws shade at Poilievre, that he has a chance to like stand up for himself and wear, kind of like that cape and show Canada that he's the strong leader, who they're looking for. Like I said, a great deal don't hate President Trump, but a good deal of Canadians don't care for President Trump. And the fact that Pierre is willing to stand up to President Trump, I think that's something that actually is going to excite Canadians. So that's why I say that I still have, high hopes for him. Let's just see what happens after that that endorsement that President Trump did.
Sharon, Jamie mentioned ads, right? And there have already been some out from the Liberal Party. I can only imagine that they will increase, particularly like they, a number of months ago, they were already drawing those comparisons and they were landing differently than they are right now in a completely different political context with Trump actually at the helm and taking shots at Canada. How much do you anticipate something like this will actually make a dent in what the Liberals have already kind of launched with their ad campaign?
Yeah, definitely. So, I adore you, Jamie, but I so disagree. To be honest, I think what everyone needs to remember here is Donald Trump had a significant personal issue with our previous leader, Prime Minister Trudeau. His vitriol, the whole governor commentary, the whole 51st state, very much directed towards his dislike towards him, and also, to a certain extent, his dislike towards Minister Freeland, having his time dealing with them. Now, we've seen a complete shift in tone and tenor, and I know a lot of Conservatives are out spinning to say that this video that Donald Trump reported last night is like the best thing since sliced bread, because Now we have Pierre Poilievre saying, I am a tough guy. I'm going to stand up for Canada. That's not what Canadians want right now. Canadians see Mark Carney as somebody who can, the Prime Minister as somebody who can actually sit down and have a adult conversation and diffuse it. We went from all of this hectic nonsense around annexing Canada. We haven't heard him say much about that last week. We haven't heard him call the Prime Minister governor. So I think the Conservatives can use that in the ads, but people don't see Pierre Poilievre as somebody who can take on someone like Donald Trump. It's going to cause more of a rift. It's going to cause more of this, let's annex them and take them over as a state. I actually think we can take this as a sign of respect coming from President Trump, because he doesn't compliment people very often, and we saw him do that recently with Premier Doug Ford after the Premier pushed back, and we saw how that has led to some more, I would say, constructive conversations and some pauses around tariffs. So I actually think it's weird, it's hilarious, it's also just what universe do we live in where Donald Trump is saying he'd rather have liberals, but you know what, if it means we take the temperature down and allow an adult to go to the table, I'm all for it.
Carl, let me ask you then, based on what both Jamie and Sharon just said, is the bigger issue, how Canadians view who will navigate Donald Trump better, or is the vulnerability for the Conservatives in particular, any comparisons that are drawn with Trump? Like, which is their bigger issue, I guess, if you take public opinion polling to heart?
Well, I mean, for the Conservatives, they have that anchor around their neck that the Liberals cannot have. Despite what Donald Trump said today, nobody will think that, the views of Donald Trump are aligned with the Carney Liberals or any Liberal, to be honest. Unlike what he said just 2 months ago, when he said, he was looking forward to work with Pierre Poilievre, that their views were more aligned. So that's the anchor around Pierre Poilievre's neck. So I think Poilievre could not have been happier today to hear Donald Trump say that. And if I was mischievous, actually, I would say perhaps the Conservative strategist might have called a Republican friend to kind of put that bug in Donald Trump's ear. But I'm not mischievous, so I'm not going to suggest that. I'm just going to say that it's quite possible that Donald Trump is upset about things he read from Pierre Poilievre about himself, because that's the way this guy reacts. But for Pierre Poilievre, it's certainly a good day because it allows him to create that stand up to Donald Trump kind of persona that he failed to establish thus far.
Yeah, so and that's one thing that I agree with. Like, he has a chance to show Canada, like, hey, I'm not worried about Trump, and I don't think that he is at all, and that's why I like him. But so a little bit to Mark Carney's defense. Not that I'm defending him, but this is something that I did see a couple of Canadian news outlets react to, and they said that Mark Carney is not your average liberal. Like he definitely comes off like he has some conservative-ish, as they said, to him, which I thought was very interesting. And they mentioned that just based on like his suit and his tie. Now, I'm not sure if this was because when Justin Trudeau would wear a red tie, it would drive them crazy, but they did mention that, so I thought that was kind of odd. But, to Carney's defense, they have said that he is not your average liberal, that he seems very conservative-ish in some of his ways and thoughts. I'm not sure if I've witnessed or seen that, based on the way Pierre Poilievre kind of describes him. He definitely seems like he's more on the liberal side, so that's something I will keep an eye on closer for you guys.
Does it still feel, Hannah, like the Trump factor is the factor?
Oh, yes, 110%. It was interesting. I was talking to people who aren't tied into our world about this comment by Donald Trump, and I'm like, does that kind of, separate Pierre Poilievre from this? And you know what they started quoting were the liberal ads showing the likenesses between Donald Trump and Pierre Poilievre in those ads. It's like, wow, those really have set in already into people's minds comparing the two people. They don't want someone angry dealing with Mr. Trump, and sometimes that is what comes across from Mr. Poilievre. The Canada's broken, we're the only ones who can do this, and he has to try to switch that persona now to bring the anxiety levels down of Canadians and show that he would be the one who could diplomatically deal with this person, because we are, and I Yeah, I know we want to diversify where we send our exports and all those things, but in the meantime, we still have to deal with this person south of the border.
Jamie, you would know better than me. I just don't get the sense that, you know, all the sort of in the sort of punditry and media class, the talk of the pivot and everything. I don't get the sense that that's what they feel like they should be doing. Like, I think that they think the persona that they want to project is the one that Pierre Poilievre said in that clip, like, I will stand up essentially against Trump.
Yeah, I think there's a few things going on here, Vashi. One, we know we are in an incredibly short runway that the Conservative Party has to try and define Mark Carney in the eyes of Canadians, rather than listening to Liberals talking about Mark Carney in that more positive framing they're trying to put on him. And so the Conservatives have been put in a bind where they have to take to the airwaves and draw some of the critiques. It's worked. You saw the Liberals had already abandoned the carbon tax as one example in influencing the Liberal race from the outside. The questions of conflict of interest and this notion of a blind trust, but knowing what was in it the day before and all of a sudden he doesn't, those questions continue to dog him, speaks to character and integrity. So you're in this kind of window where they have to be negative to kind of drive up awareness of the fullness picture of Mark Carney. Well, on the other hand, if you go back to what Pierre Poilievre said on his Flag Day speech, we haven't seen much of that now for the past month. And I think if Pierre Poilievre is going to succeed in this campaign, he's going to have to find not a switch track and not a pivot. He's going to have to take his leadership to another level and kind of channel that patriotism, the constructive nation building that he really talked about, how we can use the federal government's tools and resources to truly make the country a better place in a way that's going to resonate beyond the kind of day-to-day political rancor that I think people more associate with him right now. And I think you are going to see more of that in a RIP period. And so if he can unlock that, I still think this is very much a change election. Mark Carney sure gets to take the mantle as being a change candidate for part of this because he literally is change and is no longer Justin Trudeau, who was the most reviled politician in the country the day he resigned. But this is still very much up for grabs and none of this is decided.
30 seconds left. I just want to give Sharon the last word. Go ahead.
Listen, I think we've seen it. Pierre Poilievre and his team are unable to pivot. They want to continuously go at the carbon tax. We saw that.
And you know, in Poilievre's defense, like, things do sound very different right now because I can tell you guys, just the end of last year, I can remember even Elon sending out a clip saying that Poilievre should be the next Prime Minister of Canada. And at some point, President Trump, I do believe he might have said something positive about him. I'm not sure how well he spoke about him. Positive, absolutely. But something has changed, you know. Poilievre actually mentioned on his YouTube video that was on my live yesterday that 6 days after President Trump took office, Mark Carney moved, I think it was one of his corporate offices or something of the sort, to New York City. So I actually had no idea about that until Pierre Poilievre mentioned it in his YouTube video. So I think it's interesting, and I think we should keep seeing this play out. That's why I'm not going to commentate on it too much right now.
Earlier this week, he is unable to pivot to somebody other than Justin Trudeau. The biggest gift for him to be measuring the drapes of the Prime Minister's office was Justin Trudeau, and he doesn't have that anymore. So, listen, I'm totally happy if they want to keep going down this path of their messaging because it's not helping them. But if I was advising the Conservatives, I would say you need to pivot and you need to not be the angry guy. You need to come off as a statesman because right now what people want is a statesman dealing with President Trump.
And you guys need to not be so tone deaf because the Conservatives' favorability rate is higher than the Liberals right now. And we must all remember that. So, with that being said, I wish my Canadian friends all the best. Elections can be stressful. You know, we just went through it. So, over here in America, we understand that. Just, you know, I always go by, listen, how closely does this person align with my morals, my ethics? You know, all beliefs are not always gonna line up, but you know, they can't come out with just some straight wickedness. I'm not gonna vote for somebody like that, you know. And some people may say that wickedness is subjective. I don't believe that. You know, I think wickedness has a very distinct face to it, and it's evil. And it's wicked. So with that being said, guys, switching gears a little bit, Jesse Waters on primetime. We're gonna watch Jesse Waters cover Schumer and Chuck Schumer and why the Democrats are upset with him and feel so betrayed by him. Also, that there is some sort of leak. He believes that Congress is saying that Schumer needs to either step down or retire early, and then we will move over a little bit to a little bit of Tim Walz. Bernie Sanders is included in here a little bit, and I may just stop at that point. So not going to react to the whole clip, guys, but let's take a look at what Jesse Waters had to say about Chuck Schumer and how he and the Democratic Party have been lately.
So when you hear Walz brag about how much of a man he is, what does that tell you? I think there might be a little bit.
This is where, you know what, I'm going to go back a little bit because I know this is him and Charlie Kirk, so let me start it from here.
Want you to show fight, and you are not fighting. If you want airtime, be disruptive.
Democrats can't win if they don't know what they're fighting for.
To the people who say we want to fight, you don't have the votes. You can't pass gas.
Please don't vandalize. Don't ever vandalize Tesla vehicles.
And so all of a sudden, domestic terrorism is a joke.
They basically want to kill me because I'm stopping their fraud.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died some 38 minutes ago.
The JFK files. A prime-time deep dive.
People have been waiting for decades for this.
Plus,
oh my God, when I'm talking, you're not talking. No, when I'm talking, you're not talking.
the Democrat base is out for blood and their town halls are getting ugly.
We want you to show some of the backbone and strategic brilliance that Mitch McConnell would have in the minority.
Right.
We want you to show fight, and you are not fighting. We are on the front lines, and you are talking about 2026. Democrats should win in 2026, but those Democrats may need to be the people who beat incumbents in primaries for being too passive now. If you want airtime, be disruptive.
I'm going to answer this question. You're not going to get me upset. They have the right to ask questions.
Whoa, the knives are out for crying Chuck because they say he's not a fighter. Yesterday, Nancy called him a surrender monkey, and now House Democrats want his scalp.
I respect Chuck Schumer. I think he's had a great, long-standing career. He's done a lot of great things. But I'm afraid that it may be time for the Senate Democrats to pick new leadership as we move forward.
You know, this actually proves how in disarray the Democrats are. Because why is it that they couldn't go amongst themselves, have a conversation, and then House leader, I don't know, whoever, Hakeem Jeffries, whether Chuck, whoever comes out and says, you know, guys, going forward, as we're looking forward to the future, we want to promote some new things, so we're going to make some changes in rank. Like, why couldn't they just say that? Why does it have to be this display of what we're seeing in the Democrats? And this is what we've been seeing, I wanted to say in the last 2 weeks, but well past this point. But I mean, dude, seriously, we're all the way up to voting for the funding of the bill. Like, this has literally been horrible. I mean, you got headlines all over the place talking about the Democrats are eating each other and all kinds of craziness because, you know, they're just acting really silly in public. And I mean, I just don't believe in disrespecting your leader. You know, if you guys aren't seeing eye to eye, then you're not seeing eye to eye, but pull them to the side, you know, at least show the man some sort of dignity if you say that this is your leader and say, listen, man, Chuck, we got to talk. Like, you know, let's call a meeting and let's sit down and let's, like, you know, have a conversation because people are feeling some type of way. But to just openly see, you know, Jasmine Crockett just flat out, no, you know, that's ridiculous. AOC is mad. Hakeem Jeffries is mad. And I'm just like, dude, can you guys just show just this much unity? Just this much unity so America can believe it has two parties and not one, or three parties and not one. Just this much unity. And it's just so sad right now.
Schumer's less popular than the Ebola virus. That's what one senior House Democrat told Axios. Behind the scenes, Democrats in the House are holding anti-Schumer vent sessions. And everyone in the party, not just the lefties, are pissed off. Pocahontas is challenging his leadership. Liz says Schumer was wrong and should have shut down the government. Chuck's been on a media tour to save his job, and after CBS told him no one trusted him, MSNBC strapped him to a chair and humiliated him.
So when Jesse refers to Liz, he means Elizabeth Warren. So, and I was having a conversation with my wife about this earlier. I just gotta say, I don't like this. Like the fact that, okay, I get it. They're upset because the way Chuck voted. Chuck has went on CNN, The View, a couple of places and said why he voted the way he voted. But literally, the kind of backlash that they're giving this guy over this and how public they're doing it and they're okay with embarrassing him, it really just kind of makes me feel bad for him. Like slightly, I gotta be honest, I do slightly feel bad for the guy because he served them. And the fact that, Elizabeth Warren is challenging him like this, it's just like, dude, like this lady's been in Congress a long time. So the fact that she's comfortable, with just throwing him under the bus like that, like listen to this again, what Jesse says.
In the scenes, Democrats in the House are holding anti-Schumer vent sessions. And everyone in the party, and not just the lefties, are pissed off. Pocahontas is challenging his leadership. Liz says Schumer was wrong and should have shut down the government.
This is where I told my wife, I said, this is completely out of pocket. So you mean to tell me that these people are upset with Chuck Schumer because he did not, they're like, we wanted him to shut down the government. It's like the level of tone deaf I keep saying in the Democratic Party. Do you think the American people wanted the government shut down? The majority would say, of course not. But the Democrats are saying, we're so angry because he didn't vote to shut down the government. And this is why I believe that if the Democrats do not do a 180 in about a year and a half, that they're toast when 2028 comes around. They're toast. There's no way that they're going to take it back if they don't do a 180. And I mean, right now, with Chuck Schumer's not, who are they going to put up? Chuck Schumer's not doing anything. Hakeem Jeffries, who's going to vote for Hakeem Jeffries right now? It's the total disarray. Just in itself, it makes the party unattractive. And I'm not really sure why there's no one telling them. I'm at this point, I'm just do the Democrats not watch YouTube? We know the older ones don't. That's pretty clear. We can tell.
Chuck's been on a media tour to save his job, and after CBS told him no one trusted him, MSNBC strapped him to a chair and humiliated him.
I want to play some of the criticism, again, not from backseat drivers or not from me on cable news, but people like Hakeem Jeffries or Nancy Pelosi. Take a listen.
Look, Chuck and I disagreed as it relates to the approach and outcome.
I think there is a deep sense of outrage and betrayal. And this is not just about progressive Democrats. This is across the board, the entire party.
I would have liked to see when Chuck Schumer had leverage here.
Governor Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania.
To say we need A, B, C, and D for the Democratic Party and force the Republicans to meet him halfway on those issues.
I myself don't give away anything for nothing. And I think that's what happened the other day.
They said, okay, he said leverage, I think it was the governor.
Nancy Pelosi said, I myself don't give away anything for nothing. I think that's what happened.
The only leverage we had, they weren't going to negotiate with us. So there were two choices only. It would be nice if we had a third choice.
And Trump's pretty much stuck to this point too. He said that. He's like, everybody's upset with him on the Democratic side because, like Nancy Pelosi just said, I wouldn't give something for nothing. But Chuck Schumer has been saying this from day one. He's like, the Republicans are not going to negotiate with us. They're not going to negotiate with us. Now, if someone were to ask me, Q, do you honestly believe the Trump administration would have negotiated with the Democrats on voting for this bill? A part of me is kind of probably not. And that's because of what they're finding in the government. That's the only reason why I feel like they wouldn't. It should be bipartisan, and it needs to be. It really shouldn't just be partisan. But with that being said, with a lot of the waste and the fraud that is being found and the fact that they are so against Doge making all of these cuts, I think that if there were any room for negotiation, it would have been very minimal. And Chuck Schumer wasn't willing to roll that dice. He wasn't. So he's just like, you know what? I'm just going to go vote in favor to keep the government open, because as he said, Chuck Schumer's main fear was that gives the Republicans now total control, even though to some extent they have it, but total in the sense where they even decide when we come back from a shutdown. And he was told, allegedly, by a Republican that when they shut down the government, that we would be shut down for 9 months while the Republicans destroyed the federal government, which I said, Chucky, that's suspect. I don't know if I believe that. I just can't see right now someone from President Trump's cabinet coming to him face to face and telling him that. I'm not saying it's impossible. Personally, right now, I don't see it. But it could have just been a different type of Republican, perhaps. Not sure, but let's take a look.
Pinned the whole party against Chuck. He's getting pounded behind the scenes, and Congress is leaking he needs to retire or step down. And the Raging Cajun says Schumer's on the clock.
I'm mad at the Democratic Party. I mean, you see, when you lose an election, a party exists for one reason and one reason only, and that is to win.
Folks, this is history in the making.
James Carville, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a listen.
We lost. Because when you lose an election, a party exists for one reason and one reason only, and that is to win the election. We lost.
And if you guys like, who's James Carville, Democratic strategist, I believe, did he work on Clinton's? Yep, 1992 Clinton campaign. Former lead strategist. Okay, so I knew he was a Democrat, but I didn't know what they were calling him. 1992 Clinton campaign.
Win the election. We lost. And I do think that Senator Schumer is right. I think he and Leader Jeffers do have a plan in place. And look, if this is not evident here in the next 3 or 4 months, then there will be a uprising within the Democratic Party.
Schumer's strategy doesn't pay off by July 4th. Carville says he's getting cooed. The last Democrat uprising didn't go so well for the big guy. So we know what they're capable of. So what we have here is a good old Mexican standoff. Chuck says he's not going anywhere, and Democrats said, we'll see about that. And women hate it when everyone's fighting.
Why don't the Democrats go out there and march and stop fighting with each other? I'm sick of it.
Well, I don't know, Joy, that they're fighting with each other. They're not fighting a unified fight.
No,
that is the problem.
The fact that Nancy is now out there criticizing Schumer, stop it.
You know why she's criticizing him? Because he should have been fighting for that veteran. He should have been fighting for the people of America that are feeling the way that they are feeling.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Go out and fight for them.
It's not about, well, he had the opportunity to fight for them. Chuck Schumer caved to the GOP and got nothing. This was actually...
Joy's sticking up for Chuck, and Sonny wants him Doge.
Yeah, and Sonny's being divisive because she's saying, you know why Nancy's criticizing Chuck? Because he should have fought for the American people. By doing what? By shutting down the government? That's what you wanted him to do, Sonny? Shut down the government? You don't think that people would have been hurt by that, Sonny? And this is why Schumer said what he said. If you guys keep treating Chucky like this, he might try to become a Republican. You guys need to watch out, man. You've had a lot of people leave your party. I mean, we've already taken some pretty good ones. You know, you guys gotta watch out. And you know, at the end of the day, when the Republican presidential candidate let's just be honest, flat out bad, I say the same thing to the Republican side. I say, hey, you guys gotta fix it. You gotta get it together. I was saying that a couple of years ago. Even, well, before President Trump, but even after President Trump. And I'm like, dude, what is wrong? Like, why can't the Democratic Party get it? This is the oldest party we have in the United States of America. Why can't this party get it together? At some point, we want to see the underdog win, right? Whether it's Democrat, Republican, because the American people, this is what we do. At some point, we vote them back in office. We get mad, we vote them out. We get happy, we vote them in. This is what happens. This is the way that it works. So I don't want to see the Democratic Party lose the next 4 terms. But I don't think that they are aware that that can happen to them. And it can, because it's happened to a party in the past.
These ladies are clawing each other's eyes out during Women's History Month. It's just so sad, but it's about to get worse. Bernie Sanders just showed up with some matches and gasoline.
Everyone's beating up on Chuck, and I strongly disagree with them.
strongly. No one is in the caucus more critical of Schumer than I am, but it's not Schumer. It's the caucus. It's not the caucus. It's the Democratic Party. In the Democratic Party, you got a party that is heavily dominated by the billionaire class, run by consultants who are way out of touch with reality. The Democratic Party has virtually no grassroots support.
Bernie's saying no one hates Chuck more than I hate him. As a matter of fact, I'm the only one here that's clean. You're all corrupt. Notice that Bernie speaks truth to power when the Democrats are out of power. But when Joe was running the show, Bernie was a good little boy and said Biden was Einstein and he campaigned for Kamala. The funny thing is, Bernie doesn't have one friend in the Senate. They all think he's nuts. And his crazy ideas are what loses him elections. The question is, who's getting fired?
In sports, you get a draft pick. If the GM, whoever picked the draft pick, if they pick someone that doesn't work out, it's a bust, that person needs to get fired. So, who picked Kamala Harris? If it's Obama, if it's Pelosi, if it's Schumer, that person needs to get fired. Then too, Kamala Harris needs to be fired. Why? Because she chose Waltz as a VP.
Well, the only person who can fire Barack is Michelle. And that story is still developing. Kamala's in the nosebleeds at the Lakers games. She's been fired and she doesn't even know it. But Schumer and Nancy, that's what you call coup karma. What goes around comes around. It's only a matter of time. Gavin Newsom's hands are clean. That leaves tampon.
This notion of toxicity and masculinity needs to be separated. And I think it's been conflated. And I think we're going to have to work on that a little bit. And I think there is a crisis.
I think some of us scare them. I think I scare them a little bit why they spend so much time on it. No, I'm serious, because I can fix a truck. They know I'm not bull.
No one's scared of tampon. We hope he runs. And why does he keep bragging about his manhood? Sounds a little insecure.
All right, here we go. 345 International Motor. No.
Okay, guys, so that's Tim Walz playing with the old school truck that a commentator said he looked like he was lost and he didn't know what he was doing. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward to the JFK files being released, because that is the next snippet in this long segment we're going to look at. So let's hop right over there. For some of you who may not be aware, the JFK files were released. I believe this was yesterday, right, guys? They got released because I covered this the day before it was going to happen, and I got President Trump talking about it. So let's see what Jesse covered.
With the JFK assassination files, what you need to know.
The flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Last night, the administration released thousands of unredacted documents related to JFK's assassination. Most of these files have been in the public record for years, but they've reignited theories about what our government's role was. The theory is that Oswald didn't defect to the Soviet Union. He was sent there as a CIA cutout. Because what kind of defector returns from the Soviet Union after 3 years during the height of the Cold War and just waltzes right through customs with a Russian wife? Some investigators believe Oswald was being groomed by the military-industrial complex and eventually set up as a patsy, an assassin who was sheep-dipped into Soviet and Cuban communist activities so that when Kennedy was assassinated, the country had no choice but to invade Cuba and maybe launch a preemptive nuclear strike on Moscow.
Wow, that's crazy.
Something the Pentagon and the agency had been itching for. Some of these new documents bolster a theory that this...
I'll read this to you guys because YouTube might have flipped it backwards. So, according to a CIA telecheck, Kostakov was Lee Harvey Oswald's KGB case officer in Mexico City. According to Barron, page 335, Oswald was in Mexico between September and November 1963 and was seeking to obtain a Soviet visa.
The CIA created a paper trail at both the Soviet and Cuban embassies in Mexico City at the time of Oswald's visit. Eisenhower, before he left office, warned the country of this growing threat from the deep state.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
When Kennedy took office, CIA Director Allen Dulles set in motion the Bay of Pigs invasion, a haphazard and poorly executed attempt to overthrow Castro, and he expected Kennedy to send in the military to finish the job when the operation failed. Kennedy didn't. He fired Dulles and created an enemy. Another one of these new files released in the document dump was a memo by Kennedy aide Arthur Schlesinger bashing the CIA after the failed Cuban coup. Schlesinger warned about the CIA's reach overseas.
It says the controlled American source, CAS, represents a particular aspect of CIA's encroachment on policy-making functions. CIA today has nearly as many people under official cover overseas as state.
And how it was encroaching on the State Department's role in foreign affairs. His memo urged Kennedy to examine CIA reorganization and cautioned that the agency possesses many of the characteristics of a state within a state. After the Bay of Pigs, Kennedy and Khrushchev came this close to nuclear Armageddon. And if he had listened to the advice of some of his military advisors, the world would look a lot different. JFK and Khrushchev began to exchange secret letters with each other seeking world peace. And Kennedy delivered a major speech on world peace. Listen.
What kind of a peace do I mean, and what kind of a peace do we see? Not a Pax Americana.
Trump is now in his first month in office.
I hate commercials. I'm gonna go back a minute, guys.
Listen.
What kind of a peace do I mean, and what kind of a peace do we see? Not a Pax Americana, enforced on the world by American weapons of war. Not the peace of the grave or the security of the slave. I am talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, the kind that enables men and nations to grow and to hope and build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
Kennedy was determined to scale down the war in Vietnam and was more open to letting former European colonies chart their own course. While many in Washington were more interested in confronting Soviet communism wherever it surfaced, propping up dictators and authorizing assassinations and regime change on foreign soil. Kennedy was on a collision course with the intelligence agencies who regarded him as a traitor. Something came to a head that day in Dallas in 1963, and there's still confusion over whether the bullet entered this way or that, and the intel agents who were swirling around Oswald the weeks and months before. Suddenly, the fired former CIA director, Allen Dulles, was placed on the Warren Commission, and things got a lot murkier. Jefferson Morley is the co-founder and author of JFK Facts, and he's been poring over the newly released files. So what have you found so far in this new batch?
Because I think they're gonna jump back to it, but I can cut it because we watched most of it. So I wanted to take a look at that. Have you guys checked out the JFK files? If you haven't, I would say go check that out. My wife's been watching it. She's watching the longest version that she can find because that's just how my wife is. So she said that there's a lot of different parts to it. I haven't started to watch it yet, so I'm gonna have to binge on it so I can catch up to where she's at. But I love American history anyway, so I'm looking forward into seeing what went on with President Kennedy. Our Abraham Lincoln was 16. Was he our 35th president? I think it was 35, was he? You guys, we are on our second to last clip. I'm like, man, time flies when you are having fun, right? So this was actually a treat in the live. I actually could cut it now and we could be done, but I wanted to add this little treat because anything dealing with America and war, I like to try to do my best to pay attention to. So, ex-Army Ranger, shout out to Vlad TV, DJ Vlad, 6.09 million subscribers. Shout out to you, Vlad. Ex-Army Ranger Nicholas Irving on why China would crush the U.S. in a war. So this is part 2. They had a much longer podcast sitting session, but I just wanted to grab this little snippet because as someone who served in the Marine Corps, always super interested when a place feels like they want to crush, will crush America. Don't get me wrong. I have had these conversations with people and I'm like, man, listen, 2 countries that this ain't gonna be a good day with is China and Russia. There's no secret about that. But let's take a look at what this ex-Army Ranger has to say about what China had to say, guys.
You know, I want to get your thoughts on something because China, when they got hit with that tariff, you know, they responded very quickly and they was like, they're ready to fight any type of war that Trump wants to fight. Like, they came back with very, very strong words. They were like, if it's war that the U.S. wants, be it tariff or a trade war or any other type of war, we're ready to fight to the end.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a military man.
You don't want to hear that?
What do you think would happen if the U.S. went to war with China?
Wouldn't be a U.S. anymore. I think the American people's mindset would change drastically. However you feel today and how you felt in the past, like erase all that. It would be like imagine this, like you want to get thrown back into the Stone Age in a matter of minutes. China has some hackers. They know how to do stuff. They have really good technology. I go as far as to say probably in some aspects, better technology than we do. If they wanted to shut down our power grid, internet, and all that stuff, the electronic infrastructure, power grid, like we would be thrown back into the Stone Age. And that's without even firing one shot. We did the same thing invading Iraq. Like that's one thing that we do invading another country. We shut down their electrical powers, we bomb, certain things, but you want to take the power away from them being able to communicate. You want to take that away. So if China wanted to, they could shut down the American population fairly easily and have everybody out here fighting amongst themselves, killing each other just for a loaf of bread, And then you get the troops involved. I think that the way the military, and you'll hear a lot of vets say this, like, it was harder when I was in. I've been that guy too, but legitimately, you can look at it on paper. I think it was like 70% of the military personnel are overweight and obese, which is insane. It's a crazy high number.
That was not like that when I was on active duty. That was not something like that would not be tolerated. As a matter of fact, if you were serving on active duty and you got to the point where you were overweight, because we got weighed pretty often. Sometimes we would have something called like just a battalion weight, and like after a PT session, you would have to go, to like the company office, and like you would get weighed by like the company gunnery sergeant or like the company first sergeant. You know what I'm saying? So if you got to the point where you were overweight while you were serving on active duty, you actually went to a platoon called BCP. And BCP stands for Body Conditioning Platoon. And that was for all, in the Marine Corps, like we got certain lingo, so I don't want you guys to take offense, but I'm just telling you like how somebody would say it, in the Marine Corps, and they would call these people who were struggling and overweight, they would call them fat bodies, right? So they would be like, yo, like you're in the fat bodies platoon, you know what I mean? And it's like when you go to BCP, instead of just PTing, like 3 times a week with your platoon, or like, with your small company or group, you guys choose a 1, 2, 3 mile run, maybe gonna hit the gym. 1 day a week will be like your lazy day where you're like riding bikes and hitting the treadmill in the gym. That's fine. But when you get on BCP, it's like every day you're running. Like every single day you're running, because it's like you got to the overweight platoon, and it's like the Marine Corps is not gonna have that. Most people, when they get to BCP, they're usually in that platoon maybe 30 days, maybe 45 if like they're in a real bad position, but it's like they don't play that. So I'm gonna tell you right now, just to hear that statistic, 70% and on active duty. Like in my mind, when I was in the Marine Corps serving, that was like impossible. 70%, there's no way.
Which is insane. It's a crazy high number. Don't quote me on 70, but I think.
And I'm not saying this gentleman's old. We probably could be very, very close to the same age, but if not, ballpark figure around there. So we could have served around some at the same time. And that's probably why he's like, that's an insane number. So for me to hear that, I'm sure my drill instructors when I was at boot camp, if they even know this number right now, they're disgusted, because it's like there's no way. That's literally intolerable, not gonna happen. At least when I was in the Marine Corps. I'm not sure what's happening right now.
It's a high number. Don't quote me on 70, but I think we're about there. And just the mindset of the average troop nowadays, the average soldier, they're not prepared to really go all out for anything. Most of the guys are in for a paycheck, in free college, and they get a chance to travel the world. There's no war going on right now, so half of the guys they're not even thinking about war. They don't even know what war is like. The war ended back in like real hard combat back in like 2012, 14 or something like that. I'm talking hard combat. We haven't seen war like that, and going up against a nation like China, a country like China, I don't think we're prepared for that. The average soldier, ground fighter, we fought guys in flip-flops and sandals and man dresses, for 20 years, and they put up a hell of a fight. Imagine guys with technology, training, money, power, more manpower. They have a Navy, Air Force. They have all that, the special forces. They have all that. It'd be a pretty good fight. And I just don't think that, your average, I don't know if this might come across weird or bad, but like you got soldiers who are more concerned about can they wear a dress on the weekends and identify as this. They're not thinking about fighting and doing what you have to do. When I was when I joined Ranger Battalion, the first question I was asked when I got in there was, why are we here? I had like a few other guys next to me. And he asked each of us, why are you here? And you come across with the whole, I want to serve my country, be all that I can be.
But it's the fight.
He's like, no, cut the bullshit. Why are you here? And as blunt as it may come across, we all to a T said, because I want to kill people.
Yeah.
And that sounds bad, but
that's the point of it. That was my answer too. So you know what I'm saying? And like, this is a Ranger, so this is my answer, just being in the Marine Corps. So that's the whole point of going to the military. It's like, sure, you want to serve your country. Of course you want to protect your country, but it's like, I want to blow some stuff up. Like, that's the answer. That's the mindset of the person that has the desire to go in the military. So even just listening to him, like, and I knew this stuff that's going on, but it's like, man, and I'm still pretty in touch with a lot of my buddies that are in, but like he said, there's not a war going on right now. So a lot of them are really just kind of chilling right now. But just to hear him even say, like, they're thinking about, like, if they could wear a dress on the weekend and identify as this, they're not thinking about any war. I'm like, dude, like, the mindset of the military is real different right now. Like, I have to take a deeper dive into that probably over this weekend, and we probably gonna hit some of that next week, because that's near and dear to my heart. So I'm going to be honest with you guys with the information I have and the information I don't have. And if I knew the military was suffering, but if it's suffering that badly, then what this gentleman is saying, without me even doing much research, but having been someone who served on active duty 8 years, then absolutely, like, we're in some trouble. Because I can guarantee you, I lived in Japan for some years. China and Japan are not the same. But I can tell you one thing, what they do have in common is that these people don't overeat. So there is no way 70% of China's army is overweight. That's not happening. So that means America can't even chase them. Like, when I was serving, you know how strict my instructors and my platoon sergeants and my company commanders, then when I finally got into the field, were like, in the company first sergeant and the battalion commander, listen, they wasn't having no failed PFTs. Like, you can't, if you fail a PFT, how we gonna send you to war? If you can't run 3 miles Or if you can't run 1.5 miles without dying, how are we going to send you to Iraq? How are we going to send you to Afghanistan? So that's just crazy, like, to hear him talk about it like this. And this is actually something that I didn't get a chance to watch before I showed it to you guys. So I'm watching it like first time, real time with you guys. Vlad put it up, I think, 6 days ago now.
I'm aboard. That's what you don't become a special operations guy training and doing all this training to be a nation builder and win the hearts and minds. You only train for one specific job, and it's all volunteer. You don't volunteer to get into this line of work and not want to kill or be capable of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's what I was in for. I think that mentality is shifted, changed. I was in during a time when it was just that. We wanted to go kill as many bad guys as we possibly could, and we did by the thousands.
Yep.
So just not used to that now, and we were doing it up against people way less not significant, but they didn't have the infrastructure that China has.
Yeah.
And we fought them for 20 years.
Oh yeah.
And
I agree with him when he's saying that, and this is something that when I was on active duty and I would come home and I would talk to my civilian friends, and I could always tell them everything because on active duty I had a pretty decent security clearance. But they would try to ask me questions and I would be like, look, man, I'm not trying to answer like certain things. Y'all just not gonna get the answer from me. But here's what I'll tell you: on any given day, 2 countries that we don't want to necessarily be fighting with on just a regular Monday and Friday are China and Russia. I did not say that the U.S. was going to go out just like some straight punks. I mean, based on what, I don't know, I'm scared because based on what Nicholas is saying, I'm worried. But two, at least 2. Like, I'm not saying that, there's nobody out there that might not like be able to like hurt a pinky toe or something. But there's at least 2 out there that it's like, this ain't going to be like a one-hitter quitter.
years, and on many of the occasions had us tuck our tails for a while and run. So they put up a good fight. China would crush us.
This is why I so love to sit with you, because my word to everything, I didn't expect this response. And I know that our viewers, they're going to be just like I was. I was literally sitting here and I'm processing everything you said from top to bottom. You said so much dope stuff, I almost don't know what to attack first.
My bad.
Nah, it ain't your bad. It's a great thing when you can sit with somebody and they make you think. They make you see things from a different perspective.
Yeah, y'all can go check Nicholas Irving out on Vlad TV. He has another one right here that's over 2 hours. Army Sniper Nicholas Irving on New Orleans and Tesla truck attacks. So, I mean, he does some pretty great interviews. Like, like ex-Army Rangers. When I was on active duty, I got a chance to train with Army SF. Like, went out into the field with those guys for about like 2 weeks. That was crazy. Like, I thought the Marines were crazy and our boot camp was crazy and all that stuff was nuts. Army SF, like, they're just a whole different beast. Like, they're hilarious. They don't even consider themselves regular Army because they're so special forces. I mean, these are the guys that basically, the first time I ate a snake, I was with those guys. The first time I pretty much of course I had ate pork, but we caught a pig out in the wild and ate it. I was with those guys. So I mean, Army SF, just watching them constantly take leeches off of everything and everywhere. Like those guys, those are good times, good memories when I think about that. So shout out to Army Ranger Nicholas Irving. Never X, you serve your country, bro. You deserve that. Shout out to you, Vlad. Great interview. All right, guys. So here we are. Last clip of the live stream of the night, guys, on a Thursday. And we always end our live stream with a clip from Cliff. I don't care how cheesy it sounds, as long as I'm reacting to Cliff, that's the way it's going to sound. Because Cliff is the bomb. Go check Cliff out if you guys get a chance. 630,000 subscribers and growing. He's even shot past 630 since I've been ending my lives with him, and that's only been about probably a month and a half or so. So the guy's on fire, also does podcasts, great YouTube content, Christian YouTube content creator, spreading the word of Jesus, the gospel. Super appreciate Cliff because he helps me in my live streams in a way that I get to honor God. So guys, tonight the title of this one is, she almost made the worst life decision. It says she kept the baby and finds Christ. Let's take a listen.
She was on her way into a clinic when she was stopped and chose life, but it only gets better. Listen.
Yeah, first off, I just wanted to say thank you for doing this for me. It means a lot. You guys don't even know me, and you guys did all of this. I will forever be grateful. Thank you. And this wouldn't be possible today if it wasn't for Brenda, who stopped me to tell me that I was going to probably make the worst decision of my life. And I'm forever grateful that I ran into her that day. I met Joyce, I've been coming to church, and I have found Jesus. Jesus came to me, nothing but amazing things have been happening for my family. He's answered a lot of prayers, and I just want to say thank you again to everybody. Good job.
She was on her.
Hey, shout out to
She almost liked it.
That's dope.
She was on her way into a
I
clinic
could
when
appreciate that. Basically this woman was on her way into an abortion clinic and she gets stopped by some people who work at the church. They talk to her, they tell her they're gonna help out, they step up, and they give her everything that she feels like because she doesn't have, she shouldn't keep the baby. So the church steps up, and I can appreciate Cliff for putting that clip out there like that because that's important. I mean, first and foremost, as a Christian, I'll tell you this: sometimes the church can be slightly divided on this issue, but not so much. Just should we help certain people so much sometimes? And here's what I'll say to this: if there's a child involved, like, God wants us to help. As Christians, there's no doubt about it. One of my favorite pastors out in Riverside, California, Pastor Matt Brown of Sandals Church. Shout out to you, Pastor Matt. He says it best, right? He says God makes no accidental children. There might be accidental parents, but there's no accidental children. And I have friends, I have loved ones who have had not the best parents. And I mean, you talk about taking advantage of a child to a grotesque limit. Yeah, like those were those parents. And at that point, when he says accidental parents, I can see where even some have said, of course, God chooses your parents because he needs their DNA, so you can look and act and do the things that he needs you to do and carry out throughout the earth as you live your life. But, right, plenty of people in the body of Christ and the family of God that God can send to you to mentor, shepherd, and father you. And I've been blessed in that way by God, so never lose hope, guys. Like, even in a struggling situation, this woman was able to find somebody that was like, yeah, you know what, I'll step up and I'll help because I feel like that baby's important. And we should be those people. We might not have all of the money to help one person, but we can have other people chip in and help us, especially if they are believers of Christ, especially if they are pro-lifers. Like, we want to step up and we want to help these mothers so they don't feel like, a lot of women, it's not that they're like, oh my God, like, I hate this baby, I want to abort it. It's not that. Like, in people's minds, I don't know where it goes, but you can't always go to the negative with people when you don't even have a fraction of the story. Sometimes people just feel so hopeless that they're just like, dude, it's like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not, and I don't even want to even attempt to go through it and give the baby away because I would never even do that in my right mind. So I'm just going to do this. And I get it. Like, a lot of you guys don't understand grace, so you're not going to be able to have that for people. But just try to have it for people because you come off ignorant when you don't know at least a quarter of the story, but you're judging someone so harshly. So with that being said, guys, I had fun on the corner. I always do have fun with you guys on the corner. I appreciate you for stopping by tonight on a Thursday. We will be back tomorrow, guys. Tonight I got on at, I think it was 5:50. I had a set for. Definitely going to get on earlier tomorrow. I had therapy today, guys, so I'm not going to miss therapy ever, never, right? So that did not interfere. That had to happen, and I had to adjust some things, and I just do that so I could be my best self for my wife first and foremost, my family, and then you guys. So yeah, if I got to jump on here a little bit late, it's more about obedience, and if I'm actually going to do the thing that God asked me to do on the day He asked me to do it. So I'm here, but nonetheless, tomorrow I'm going to try to jump on here 4 p.m. Really 3:45 if I can, so I can just probably stay on a little bit longer with you guys. Because every time I'm about to jump off, I have people jump in my live, and I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry, I have boundaries, gotta go. So I don't always want to do that to you guys, so I'm just going to try to hop on a little bit earlier. But guys, until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of one another, love yourselves, love one another, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Be peaceful. Peace.